Chapter 1. A Love Torn Asunder. Sophia sat alone in the small cafe she and Ethan used to frequent. The chair across from her was empty, a stark reminder of the void he had left behind. The scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, but it failed to stir her senses as it once did. Her hands, trembling slightly, clutched a warm mug as if seeking solace in its heat. It had been 2 weeks since Ethan left her. His words still echoed in her mind. "Sophia, I can't do this anymore. It's not you, it's me." The cliché did nothing to soften the blow. She had loved him deeply, believed in the future they had planned together, and now that future lay shattered at her feet. The weight of loneliness returning home felt like a daily battle. Their shared apartment, once filled with laughter and late-night conversations, now felt like a mausoleum of memories. The photographs of their travels mocked her from the walls, and his favorite book still sat on the coffee table, untouched since he left. Sophia's nights were the hardest. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator or the occasional car passing by. Sleep eluded her, and when it came, it brought dreams of Ethan, only for her to wake up to the cold reality of his absence. Her friends noticed her change. Emma, her best friend since college, tried to help. "You need to get out of this apartment, Soph," Emma urged one evening. "You're just torturing yourself." But Sophia couldn't. It was as if the walls, the furniture, even the air itself had wrapped her in a cocoon of grief. A world without color days turned into weeks, and Sophia began to withdraw from everything she once loved. Her paintings, once vibrant with color and emotion, now sat untouched in her studio. The canvases were blank, much like how she felt inside. Work offered little distraction. She was an interior designer, and while her colleagues tried to shield her from the more demanding clients, Sophia found it hard to muster the enthusiasm for even the simplest tasks. Her boss, Mr. Grayson, eventually pulled her aside. "Sophia, I know you're going through something," he said kindly. "Take some time off. Get your head straight." She nodded numbly, grateful for his understanding, but unsure of what to do with the time. A ray of connection. One rainy evening, as Sophia wandered aimlessly through the city streets, she found herself drawn to a small park. The rain soaked her clothes, but she didn't care. She sat on a bench, staring at the empty playground in front of her. An elderly man with a kind smile approached, holding an umbrella. "You'll catch a cold out here," he said, offering her some cover. "I don't mind," Sophia replied softly, her voice barely audible over the rain. The man sat beside her. "You remind me of my late wife," he said after a moment. "She had the same look in her eyes after we lost our son. It took her a long time to find joy again, but she did." Sophia turned to him surprised. "How?" "By learning to forgive herself," he replied, "and by realizing that pain doesn't mean the end of everything. It just means you've loved deeply." His words lingered long after he left, leaving Sophia to ponder their meaning. The struggle. Within. That night, back in her apartment, Sophia stood before her easel for the first time in weeks. She picked up a brush, her hand hesitating over the blank canvas. Memories of Ethan flooded her mind, the way he laughed, the way he held her hand, the promises they made. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't stop. For hours she painted, pouring her pain and longing into every stroke. When she finally stepped back, the canvas revealed a stormy sea, a lone ship struggling against the waves. It mirrored her emotions, raw, chaotic, and searching for direction. As dawn broke, Sophia sat on the floor, exhausted but lighter somehow. She wasn't healed, not yet, but for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope. Chapter 2. Rising from the shadows, days turned into weeks, and while the pain of Ethan's absence still lingered, Sophia began to find solace in her art. The painting of the stormy sea had unlocked something within her, a realization that her emotions, no matter how painful, were part of her story. She began painting daily, each canvas an expression of her healing process. Vibrant colors started to replace the dark and chaotic strokes, and her studio, once silent, was alive with the soft hum of her favorite music. The turning point. One afternoon, Emma arrived unannounced, holding 2 cups of coffee and a mischievous grin. "I signed you up for something," she announced, placing the cups on the table. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "What did you do?" "There's an art exhibit downtown next month. They're showcasing local artists, and I submitted your name. They loved your work." Sophia's heart raced. "Emma, I'm not ready for that." "Yes, you are," Emma insisted. "You've been hiding for too long, Soph. It's time to let the world see what you can do." Reluctantly, Sophia agreed. She spent the next few weeks preparing her pieces for the exhibit, each one telling a part of her journey, from the depths of despair to the gradual rediscovery of herself. The exhibit. The night of the exhibit arrived, and Sophia stood nervously in the gallery, surrounded by her paintings. People wandered from piece to piece, admiring her work, but Sophia could barely focus. "Your work is incredible," a voice said behind her. She turned to see a man in his late 30s, his eyes warm and genuine. "I can feel the emotion in every stroke." "Thank you," Sophia replied, her cheeks flushing slightly. "It's personal." "I can tell," he said with a smile. "I'm Matthew, by the way. I'm an art collector." They talked for a while, and for the first time in months, Sophia felt a spark of connection. Matthew didn't pry into her past or try to fix her. He simply appreciated her for who she was in that moment. Closure. A week later, while cleaning her apartment, Sophia stumbled upon an old box filled with mementos of her time with Ethan. She sat on the floor, holding a photo of them laughing at the beach. For a moment, the familiar ache returned, but it was different this time. She didn't feel broken. Instead, she felt gratitude for the love they had shared, even if it wasn't meant to last. Sophia carefully placed the photo back in the box and sealed it shut. It was time to let go, not out of anger or regret, but because she was ready to move forward. A new chapter. Sophia continued painting, her work gaining recognition in the art community. She and Matthew grew closer, their friendship slowly blossoming into something more. One evening, as they walked through the park where she had once sat alone in the rain, Sophia smiled. The world that had once seemed so bleak now felt full of possibilities. "I'm proud of you," Matthew said, taking her hand. "For what?" "For finding your way back to yourself," he replied. As they stood under the starlit sky, Sophia realized that while her journey hadn't been easy, it had shaped her into someone stronger, someone who could face whatever came next.